Today we are going to discuss sample and sampling framework. You have been, a number of times heard about the term sample and sampling framework. Now, first, you have to be clear about what is sample, and then we will discuss about sampling framework, right? So if you see the picture which is mentioned in the PPT, right? So you will see there are two pictures connected with a link, right? So the first picture is largely denoting the universe. Universe is what? Universe is a mix of heterogeneous population, right? Because generally when it comes to population, so for population is heterogeneous. Every individual is having its own characteristics, its own trait, its own psychology, its own understanding on a subject, right? So when we are drawing some of the number of participants which are homogeneous in character, right? Some participants from the universe which are somehow homogeneous in character or heterogeneous. It depends. What is our objective? Whether our objective is to move to consider or to study a particular strata or particular cluster, or we wanted to understand a generalized conception of our individual, right? So this homogeneous and heterogeneous selection of few respondents again connected with the notion of the researcher's question, right? Suppose let's take an example for business research where the audience of a company or a manufacturing company or production company is having a heterogeneous uh, respondents. Say for example FMCG goods, toothpaste, right? So when it comes to toothpaste, so what are the respondents, or what are the participants, or what are the basically customers of toothpaste? Almost all the people from different age group, different education, different occupation, right? If it is a case of, say for example, Dabur Lal Dant Manjan, right? So Dabur Lal toothpaste is generally being used by number of individuals irrespective of their homogeneity. I mean heterogeneously, I mean the female and male when it comes to gender, when we are talking about the age group, be it a children or be it an adult or be it a senior citizen, so everybody is basically consuming or utilizing the Dabur Lal toothpaste, right? So in that case, our sample will be representation of the universe, representation of the universe, but having heterogeneous individuals. We will select some childrens. We will select some adults. We will select some female. We will select some male. We will select some people from elite societies. We will select some people from middle class societies, right? So in that way, we will create our sample. This is a one thing. So here entirely the notion of the researcher is critical to understand the what would be the composition of sample. Now similarly, when we wanted to understand a very tribal kind of group which is vulnerable section of the society, right? We wanted to understand what is the consumption behavior of tribal people for a product, any product, right? So in that case, our sample will be not drawn from entire heterogeneous this universe. So in that case what we will do, we will connect ourselves with the different clusters where tribals are residing, and on the basis of those clusters we will select some of the individuals. Of course, what are the traits required for this sample? The sample should be replica of your universe, right? The sample should be replica of your universe, one thing. Sample should be representative in nature, right? That means sample should have all the traits which are connected with the entire universe, right? Now it is, do you think it is easy to collect the sample which represent the 100% replica of universe? It's not possible, right? 100% is not possible, but yes, if we can able to draw with certain systematic procedures, we will minimize the error and we will try to resemble somehow with the universe. Okay, now see, researchers often work with a smaller subset of the large population called a sample. So in terms of definitional part, if you see the sample is nothing but a representative of universe. And universe is what? Universe is the entire population. entire population does not mean if we are talking about Indian consumers that all the Indian population 136 crores are our universe, right? So what it means whatever as a company we have targeted. If you recall the process of STP in the marketing, segmentation, targeting, and positioning. So what is the target? So target is the fraction of the universe or fraction of entire population which is basically being targeted by the company, and that targeted part is the universe for research for a business organization, right? If you are a business organization and you are going to conduct a research or you are planning to outsource the research process for a particular problem to some organizations. So in that case, what would be the universe? So universe would be the targeted population by the company's particular product or service for which you are conducting a research, right? So that universe, from that universe, if you are, because it's very difficult to connect with each and every unit of a universe, right? Although that's not impossible, I'm not saying that's impossible, that is possible, but that requires huge time, huge money, huge resources, unnecessary wastage of the cost, right? Even in that case, if you hire the resources, means the person who will conduct the survey door to door, they will also require extra money. And what if they will not conduct this exercise seriously? There may be chances of error also involved with the census sampling, right? So when we are talking about the complete enumeration, when we are talking about connecting with each and every individual, please note it. When a researcher is connecting with each and every unit of the universe, this process is known as complete enumeration or census, which is very commonly used by Government of India to understand the demographics of the country, right? So understanding the demographic profile of the country requires census. Being a government, being a larger employer, because number of organizations are connected with the government departments, so they are having ample resources, right? They can depute people from every department for the census, and that is what happening, right? But is it possible for a corporate house or a business organizations to deal with such kind of extensive survey? No. Why? It's not only connected with the utilization of resource, but also in case of corporates or business houses, the problems are frequent. Large number of problems one organization can see throughout its process, right? So even you will see large number of multiple problems may arise in multiple times for organizations, and that has to be addressed because business environment is highly dynamic. It is ever changing. It is continuously growing, right? And consumers' taste, preference, income, everything is also not saturated. That is also moving ahead. That are continuously in the phase of transition. So in that case, one should or company should manage those transitions frequently. If the company is not able to address those transitions, some other company will take the benefit and they will secure their market space, they will secure their customer base, and at the end, the sustainability of your organization will be in question, right? Therefore, sample process will provide a very much easier, much cheaper, and better avenues to address multiple problems which are connected with consumer sentiments and employee sentiments and employer sentiments, so that they can sustain their business, right? So what is the use of sample and sampling in the business? Of course, sample and sampling process are also required for business for their sustainability, so that they can whatever the problems may arise in a company, they can address those problems and they will provide certain solutions, right? Now, why sampling is essential? These kind of questions may arise, as and when we discuss about sampling. Why it is essential? The first thing is efficiency. Sampling is essential because of the efficiency connected with the sampling process. It minimizes the time. If you go for a complete enumeration, right, you will have to incur huge time, lot of time, right? You have to incur a cost, huge budget is involved in that, right? Even in that case, there may be chances of error. But in case of sampling, through some kind of techniques, we can minimize the errors, right? So there are techniques on the basis of that we can minimize the systematic errors. But in case of census survey, it's very difficult to observe the errors. It's very difficult to observe the errors which are being conducted by the enumerator, right? So therefore, sampling is efficient process. It is known as one of the efficient process. Second thing, resource preservation. Resources. What are the resources required in an organization? Right? Resources includes your individuals, human resource, one of the important resource, time resource, money resource. So all these three major resources are to be preserved. Unnecessary cost, unnecessary burden in the business will be reduced in line with the sampling procedure, right? If you go for sampling, you will definitely minimize your time, you will definitely minimize your budget, you will definitely minimize your human resource. Other way, if you go for complete enumeration or census, you have to incur resources. I mean, you are not able to preserve resource. At the same time, you will see scarcity is one of the issue, challenge for every organization. Time is also is scarce, right? Scarce time, scarce cost, scarce money, scarce everything is scarce in terms of organizations. So best of the best utilization from minimum resources. Again, you can connect it with the efficiency, right? So being efficient also required minimum input, maximum output, right? So here, if you see, by definition, efficiency is nothing but input output ratio, right? So input output ratio or the resource preservation, right? They are connected with the minimization of resources and maximization of the output. Are you able to understand, class? Are you with me? The next thing, expanding research. Why sampling is essential? Because for organizations, expanding research is one of the basic requirement. They have to keep on conducting multiple research in a single time. It's not only about working on advertisement campaign. At the same time, company has to work on understanding the awareness level. At the same time, company has to work on changing dynamics of the business environment. At the same time, company has to work with the technological adoption. At the same time, company has to understand the global consumers understanding. At the same time, company has to understand competitors move. At the same time, government has to work on policy change from the government side, right? It requires huge resources. So if you see the business environment, changing business environment requirement of expanding research. So multiple research has to be initiated in organization. And if you go for a sample survey, census survey, it's very difficult for organizations to work for multiple research projects with limited resources, right? Resources are limited. I hope you understand this. Expanding research. Why expanding research is essential. And at the end, practical necessity, right? So practical necessity. Is it practical to go for census survey? No. For government, of course, to understand the demographics is required. What about the business? Business has to reap the benefits, right? For reaping the benefits, if they can provide the solution on the basis of sample with minimum budget, minimum resource, why they will go for such exhaustive and extensive survey, right? Therefore, practical necessity is also connecting the researchers with the sample or sampling rather than for the entire population or complete enumeration process. Is it clear? Is it clear, class? Can I move ahead?
Yes, sir.
Any questions so far? Any query? So we started with sample. What is sample? Sample is nothing but representation of universe, right? Now we are talking about sampling. Sampling is nothing but the process through which we are drawing the samples, right? Sampling is a process from which we are drawing the samples. Why sampling is essential? Because of efficiency is being increased, resource to be preserved. It is used for conducting multiple research at the same time. It is required because of practical necessity, right? Now see the next, as we discussed, research process or research design, similar to that there is a sampling design too. एक sampling design भी है हमारे पास, ठीक है? So how to go about this sampling? Because sampling is nothing but a process. Sampling तो process है, जिस process के through हम sample को निकाल रहे हैं, ठीक है? So now this is a 5-step process. इसमें पहला step जो है that is target population must be defined. This target population is nothing but universe. जिसको हम universe बोल रहे हैं. And in case of suppose you are conducting an experiment with Indian consumers, right? So Indian consumers के पास आप कोई स्टडी कर रहे हैं for a company, say for example HUL के Lux ब्रांड के लिए, ठीक है? HUL का ब्रांड है Lux, very big brand, बड़ा ब्रांड है. Lux के लिए आप एक रिसर्च कर रहे हैं. So in that case आपका टारगेट पॉपुलेशन क्या होगा? Whether it is entire Indian population? No. पूरा इंडियन पॉपुलेशन नहीं होगा. 136 करोड़ विल नॉट बी अ टारगेट पॉपुलेशन फॉर यू. आपका टारगेट पॉपुलेशन क्या होगा? द सेगमेंट टारगेटिंग एंड पोजीशनिंग. जो एसटीपी में आपने टारगेट किया, यू हैव टारगेटेड पीपल. लक्स में भी डिफरेंट डिफरेंट सेगमेंट्स है, राइट? अभी आजकल अनुष्का और विराट कोहली ऐड कर रहे हैं 10 रुपए के लक्स साबुन का. मैं कल देख रहा था कहीं, राइट? सो दैट 10 रुपीज का जो सोप है लक्स का, दैट इज बेसिकली बीइंग टारगेटेड फॉर हुम? एलीट क्लास के लिए तो होगा नहीं, राइट? तो वो किसके लिए है? बेसिकली जो हमारा लोअर मिडिल क्लास है या जो बॉटम ऑफ पिरामिड है उसको टारगेट किया गया है, ठीक है? सो इन दैट केस यू विल सी द टारगेट पॉपुलेशन will be the people who are under the lower middle level strata or in the bottom of the pyramid, we can say, ठीक है? So 2/3 of the population which lives in the bottom of the pyramid, that is basically the target population for that 10 रुपए वाला लक्स जो कि अनुष्का और विराट कोहली टारगेट कर रहे हैं, ठीक है? दैट्स अ टारगेट पॉपुलेशन. नाउ द सेकंड थिंग इज सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम मस्ट बी डिटरमाइंड. सबसे पहला काम तो आपको टारगेट पॉपुलेशन पता होना चाहिए, डिफाइन होना चाहिए, ठीक है? अगर आप लक्स के लिए काम करें तो यू कैन एज्यूम कि 2/3 हमारा जो बॉटम ऑफ पिरामिड है तो वो जो है हमारा टारगेट पॉपुलेशन हो गया. नाउ मूविंग टू द सेकंड स्टेज, नाउ वी हैव टू हैव अ सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम मस्ट बी डिटरमाइंड. सो सैम्पलिंग फ्रेम इज नथिंग बट अ फ्रेम. हम बात कर रहे हैं फ्रेम, राइट? It's not framework. This entire process is a framework, but this frame is where we have to have a clarity on the information which is connected with the target population. Suppose हम बात करें 2/3 of the target population जो bottom of the pyramid है, तो किस किस मैप, अगर हमारे पास कोई मैप है, राइट? सपोज वी आर हैविंग अ मैप और उसमें हम डिफाइन कर रहे हैं कि हाँ यूपी में इतना ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं जहां पर बॉटम ऑफ पिरामिड मिलेगा, ये डिस्ट्रिक्ट्स हैं, और इन केस ऑफ सम टायर 1 cities और मेट्रोपॉलिटन सिटी, दीज आर सम पॉकेट्स where we will be able to get these targets, right? So that means we have to have a frame कि कहां से हमको select करना है. So sample frame is nothing but a strata, different strata from the target population. जो entire target population है 2/3 of the Indian population, उसमें हम frame बना रहे हैं. यहाँ यूपी में हमारे ये pockets हैं where we will get the bottom of pyramid, right? If it is a metro city, तो metro city में ये वाले pockets हैं जहां पर हमको मिलेगा bottom of pyramid, right? Now the third step is, once you are having the target population and sampling frame, the third thing is you have to have an appropriate techniques. अब आप कौन सी टेक्निक यूज करेंगे to draw the sample? Ultimately you have to draw a sample, right? Ultimately हमको क्या करना है? Representations निकालने हैं, इंडिविजुअल्स को सेलेक्ट करना है फ्रॉम एंटायर यूनिवर्स, राइट? सो थर्ड स्टेप में हम करेंगे, वी आर ट्राइंग टू अंडरस्टैंड कि हमारा सैम्पलिंग जो टेक्निक है, कौन सा टेक्निक हम यूज कर रहे हैं, वेदर इट इज रैंडम सैम्पलिंग. सो लार्जली वी आर यूजिंग 2 मेजर टेक्निक्स. 2 ही टेक्निक होती है, देयर आर ओनली 2 टेक्निक्स. सैंपल को सेलेक्ट करने के लिए देयर आर 2 टेक्निक्स. द फर्स्ट टेक्निक इज प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग टेक्निक. इसको बोलते हैं प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग, और इसको हम बोलते हैं रैंडम सैम्पलिंग भी बोलते हैं, राइट? सो प्रोबेबिलिटी सैम्पलिंग और रैंडम सैम्पलिंग इज one of the sampling method, and the another sampling method is non-random and non-probability sampling. Okay? Now see the first one. random sampling, right? So what is random sampling? Random sampling is nothing but the probability sampling. As I said, probability sampling or random sampling both are same. If you remember, throwing a dice, एक dice को throw करते हैं तो क्या होता है? Because dice is having 6 faces, right? If you consider a dice, so dice is having 6 faces, right? Once you will roll out the dice, you will throw the dice, you will get any number. But when it comes to prediction, when it comes to probability of coming one phase, so it is 1 by 6. That means every phase is having equal chance of selection, right? So equal chance of selection is what? Equal chance of selection is probability. So probability sampling is the sampling method where we are providing all the individuals or the unit which is under the universe equal chance of selection. Suppose 2/3 of 136, right? 2/3 of 136, say for example around 70 or 80 crores, right? 85 crores, say for example, right? 2/3 कितना हो गया? Sorry, not 80. हाँ 86 87 के आसपास ही होगा, ठीक है? So 2/3 of 136 crore is somewhere, अगर हम कहेंगे 86 और 87 crore, तो 87 crore जो पॉपुलेशन है ना बेटा हमारा यूनिवर्स, हम सब लोगों को 1 by कितना प्रोबेबिलिटी दे रहे हैं? 1 by 86 crore, यानी कि एवरी इंडिविजुअल इज हैविंग द सेम प्रोबेबिलिटी ऑफ सिलेक्शन. हर किसी का चांस ऑफ सिलेक्शन सेम है. अगर हम सैंपल को ड्रॉ कर रहे हैं तो ऐसी टेक्निक को हम बोलते हैं रैंडम सैंपलिंग और प्रोबेबिलिटी सैंपलिंग. इज इट क्लियर? इज इट क्लियर? दैट मीन्स नोबडी नोज कि कौन सैंपल के अंदर आ जाएगा. एवरीबडी इज हैविंग इक्वल अपॉर्चुनिटी. You can consider an example of throwing or rolling out a dice. जब आप डाइस को रोलिंग आउट करते हैं, you will not get 6 out of 6 at the same time, right? आपको एक ही रिस्पॉन्स मिलेगा. बट द रिस्पॉन्स का जो चांस है वो किसी को पता नहीं. Nobody knows the chance of the response. Similarly, if we consider the universe of 86 crore, nobody out of 86 crores are aware कि किसको हम एज ए सैंपल सेलेक्ट कर लें. समझ में आ रहा है? Class, are you able to understand?
Yes, sir.
Yes, sir. So that process is known as random sampling method, one method. Now now we have to decide whether we have to go for equal chance selection wala criteria or there is another method, non-random sampling or non-probability sampling. So non-probability में क्या है? Non-probability means there is no equal chance of selection. Now it is purely based on my judgment. As a researcher, you can select any city, any individual out of 86 crore. Any individual you can select. There is no use of equal chance. You are not now rolling out a dice. Directly you are picking a dice and you are putting your faces as a 6 or 5 or whatever it is. It is purely on your judgment, your base. You are not rolling out any dice now. Right? So when we are talking about non-random sampling, that means we are talking about our convenience. What is my convenience? What is my comfort? What is my judgment? Right? So it is also known as judgmental sampling or convenience sampling. Right? So there are some different methods of random sampling, and there are different methods of non-random sampling that we will discuss in the next slide. Now, once you have chosen your sampling techniques based on your notion of your objective, what your objective says, and of course there are limitations too that you have to take into consideration. If you are having time budget limitations, you will not go for random sampling. Random sampling required some time because and also required cost. Travel भी करना पड़ेगा, right? क्योंकि अगर लॉटरी मेथड में आपका सपोज you have drawn a lottery, right? आपने लॉटरी ड्रॉ किया और एक आपका नॉर्थ ईस्टर्न स्टेट आ गया, एक आपका सदर्न स्टेट आ गया, एक ईस्टर्न स्टेट आ गया, राइट? एक वेस्टर्न स्टेट आ गया और एक नॉर्दर्न स्टेट आ गया. सो इट्स वेरी डिफिकल्ट. 5 आपको स्टेट सेलेक्ट करने थे, राइट? सो इन दैट केस लॉटरी मेथड में पांचों बिल्कुल डिफरेंट डायरेक्शंस के आ गए. सो इन दैट केस यू हैव टू हैव अ ट्रैवल कॉस्ट आल्सो, राइट? तो कॉस्ट भी इंक्रीज हो जाएगा. अब जब मूवमेंट करना पड़ेगा तो टाइम भी बढ़ जाएगा, ठीक है? सो इन केस ऑफ नॉन रैंडम सैम्पलिंग, अगर हमारा लिमिटेशंस हैं ज्यादा, टाइम का, पैसे का बहुत सारा लिमिटेशंस है, सो पर्पसली वी विल सेलेक्ट based on some evidence. हम देखेंगे कि अगर say for example Delhi, Mumbai, big cities, big metropolitan cities which are considering to be the good representation of entire country, because हर जगह का, हर स्टेट का वहां पर आदमी आता है, राइट? और हर स्टेटा का आदमी आपको मिल जाएगा. पुअर टू पुअर you will get there, and you know elite to elite class also you will get there, right? So in that case you will also choose your sample from the metropolitan cities. ठीक है? So that you have to decide. So step 3 is all about appropriate sampling technique का selection, whether you will go for random sampling or whether you will go for non-random. So once you have decided कि भाई ठीक है मुझे अब equal chance में जाना है कि non convenient में जाना है, then you will the next step will be the sample size selection. अब now you have to decide कि कितना sample आपको determine करना है, right? Whether it is 30 or 300 or 3000. Now that is another important consideration in the sampling design method, right? अब sample size कितना हो, whether the sample size should be 100 or 200. What is the criteria? Now see, when it comes to sample size selection, the criteria is based on two things. One is the statistical techniques. There are statistical techniques. On the basis of that, we can draw the appropriate sample size, right? Provided we have to have an understanding about our universe, कि हमारा universe कितना है. And for some finite, because there are two kind of numbers. The number may be finite, the number may be infinite. Which number? Universe का number, right? अगर finite number है, so there is a different equation, different calculation statistics. If it is infinite number, there is a different calculation technique that we will discuss while we will move into the next session, right? So one more thing, because nowadays we are into the age of technology, right? So while deciding sample size, nowadays ready-made web applications are available. Once you will write into the Google sample size calculators, you will get sample size calculators, right? And once you will feed the numbers, say for example confidence interval. What is the confidence interval required? Whether it is 95%, 95% or 99%. So this confidence interval means, or confidence level means, nothing but how much you confident, because 100% confidence is not an appropriate thing in case of sampling, right? We cannot go for 100% confidence. 100% तो आंसर आएगा ही नहीं आपको. You cannot have a confidence of 100% for a sample, क्योंकि sample आपका 100% precision दे ही नहीं सकता, right? So for that matter, you can think of 5% margin of error. You can choose 5% तो error हो सकता है sampling में, right? So well in advance, if you select कि 5% मेरा error होगा, so what is the confidence interval and confidence level? Now the confidence level would be 95%, right? So margin of error 5% लेके, confidence level 95% लेके, when you draw, ये दो चीजें आप जब एंटर करेंगे ऑनलाइन कैलकुलेटर्स में, you will get the sample size, right? Sometimes they may ask you for the entire universe कितना है, total universe कितना है, then you have to provide the numbers, and automatically the the computerized program will calculate the answer, and they will provide you sample size. And once you will have that sample size, you will go for the sampling process. So now these are the different types of random and non-random sampling techniques under the step number 3, if you remember. So step number 3 में हमने यही discuss किया था, random and non-random samplings, right? So there are types of random sampling. You will see simple random, stratified random, cluster random, systematic random, right? Similarly for non-random, quota sampling, convenience sampling, judgmental sampling, and snowball sampling. We will see and we will discuss these different methods in the next session.